This is Marc Bernabe, and I'm a professional translator of manga and anime, mainly for the Spanish market in Spanish. And I'm the author of Learn Japanese with Manga series, released by Tato. And I'm very glad to be giving this short interview in order to present these books and what do they mean for me and how they can help you to learn Japanese. So here we go with several questions that people from Tato have asked me for you. So yeah, I started learning Japanese about 30 years ago in Barcelona, in Spain. I was a very fan of manga, as you can see. I loved to read manga and watch anime, and I always wanted to learn Japanese in order to understand these books. Eventually, I became a translator, and I'm living out of these Japanese language learning experiences. And I always wanted to transmit this passion to others. So I started writing a section in a magazine about learning Japanese. And what better way to learn Japanese if you like manga than to do it through this kind of materials, right? So this is why I created the Learn Japanese with Manga series, and I'm presenting them in English right now. Learning a language is always a very difficult task. And I think that one of the main points you have to keep in mind while learning a language is to keep the motivation up. If you are not motivated, it will be really difficult to learn a language. In the case of people who like manga, anime, and other forms of Japanese culture, like that popular culture, I thought it was a very good way to use manga as a tool for learning Japanese. And this is one of the main driving impulses that made me write this book, to offer a tool for people to really have fun while learning Japanese and keep the motivation up. This is very important. And I think with this book, you can really do it. I think you don't need to be a manga or anime fan to learn Japanese with this Learn Japanese with Manga series. Of course, if you already like manga, anime, and other forms of popular Japanese culture, then it's an easy way to enter, right? But if you don't, it's not necessary. Learning Japanese with Manga is a book that is aimed at anybody who has an interest in learning Japanese. It's quite an easy way to approach the language and to have fun while learning the language. This is very important because having fun while learning a language is essential. If you don't have fun, if it's very boring, it's very hard, then it will be very hard, difficult to keep the motivation up. And this book, I think, is very helpful in this way as well. Actually, any matter is very difficult to transmit or to teach using any tool. In this case, I am using manga. I could be using other tools such as anime or music or whatever. All the lessons were difficult to turn into very comprehensible and easy to understand matter, right? So in all the lessons, we try to explain a different part of the language, being substantives, names, right? So adjectives, verbs, whatever. Every lesson has a theme, has a central theme. I try to explain that theme thoroughly in the first pages of every lesson, and then use manga as an example to show how what we learned in the theory part of every lesson works actually in a manga. So this is the method I'm using. And I think it's very helpful for many people. I don't have a clear answer to why Japanese manga has become so popular around the world. I don't know. Maybe it's just because the stories are very interesting and they are aimed at all kinds of public. You can have manga for very young readers or manga for adult people or wherever, right? And many stories, many different stories, and they're very exciting and they're very fun to read. And about Japanese culture in manga, a lot of them, they are based in Japan. Characters are Japanese, so they will act as such. They will remove their shoes when entering their homes. They will eat with chopsticks, and they will celebrate the Hanami, the cherry blossom viewing in April. So we can find all these kind of Japanese culture aspects in the manga, and it's fun to learn the language, but also fun to learn the culture that is attached to that language. And in this world, it's very interesting to learn Japanese as well. Yes, of course, learning any language is hard, but as Westerners, learning an Eastern language and learning Japanese, it's especially hard because the writing, right? Japanese have a different system of writing. It's the hardest part of learning the language. My guidance and encouragement would be to find your motivation. If you are not motivated enough to learn Japanese, then it's very difficult to go on to continue learning the language. So try to find your motivation and cling on it. In my case, my motivation was to learn Japanese because I wanted to read manga in Japanese and to watch anime in Japanese and to be able to communicate with Japanese people. So this is what kept me going while I learned Japanese. And this is my driving impulse. And I hope you can find yours. And I think manga can be very much yours. So go on, keep on. It's a good way you are following, and find your motivation. That's all. Okay, as I have told you before, I started learning Japanese about 30 years ago. So I think it has changed a lot. Now you have several apps that are very, very useful. You have a lot of online resources. You have a lot of books. So my point of view could be very misleading, but I have two recommendations that helped me very much while I was learning the language. The first one is this book. It's an old edition now, it's different cover. Remembering the Kanji by James W. Isaac. This is a very mnemotechnic way to learn the kanji. And the second, this is a series of 3 books, is a dictionary of basic Japanese grammar. You have basic, intermediate, and advanced, have 3 books, and they are really useful while learning the grammar, especially. Why do they use this or that expression and in what context? So this would be my recommendations, but I'm an old timer, so I think you know better than me, maybe. You know a lot of apps like Midori or other apps uh, or other online resources that can help you better than these books. But these books were very meaningful for me when I started 30 years ago. Yes, I actually have written a lot of books in Spanish originally about Japanese culture and Japanese way of life or wherever, right? And my latest book was released in Spain some months ago. It's this Destino Japón, Destined Japan. It's a book guide. It's a travel guide. It's written with by 4 authors. I'm one of them, and we like it was very hard work to write this guidebook, and I'm very proud of it. I love Japanese manga and anime and all these kind of things, but I also love really love traveling through Japan. It's one of my passions. And writing this guidebook and giving my my impressions of what I like about Japan and what kind of places I recommend to go and what kind of food I recommend to eat and so on, has been very meaningful for me. So I hope in the future this guidebook, will be also released in English, and I hope you use it to travel to Japan and enjoy it as much as I do.